discovered was that these patients had often lost their ability to feel emotions and make basic decisions. The implication of this discovery is that our decisions are not determined simply by logic or emotions alone, but rather a combination of the two. When we make a bad decision that affects our well-being, it is typically caused by an imbalance between our reasoning and our emotions. This process of understanding and facilitating emotions into rational thinking is known as emotional intelligence. Originally developed in 1990 by John Mayer, David Caruso, and Peter Salovey, the theory of emotional intelligence can be broken down into four simple aspects. 1. The ability to perceive emotion. For humans, cues like facial expressions and gestures can indicate complex emotions that influence our understanding of other people, such as happiness, sadness, anger, and fear. 2. Understanding emotions. Emotions convey information. For example, happiness usually indicates a desire to join with other people. Sadness indicates a desire to avoid people, and so on. Each emotion conveys its own patterns of possible messages and actions associated with those messages. 3. Using emotions to facilitate thought. In recent years, cognitive scientists have discovered that emotions prioritize our thinking. Therefore, having a good system of emotional input can help you focus on things that truly matter. 4. Managing emotions. Managing emotions involves the ability to promote certain types of behavior through emotions and using them to your advantage. For example, if you're sad, you're more likely to be reflective and analytical. If you are happy, you're more likely to be social and outgoing. These four aspects that make up emotional intelligence inform our decisions, help predict life outcomes, and help us understand people in order to build healthy relationships.
Okay. So that's why I said that people will well develop.
And I'm pursuing journalism and communications in GSJC.
So today we've been asked to talk about leadership since we represent the student council which as it exists in the college as of today. Now the student council is something which we have as a mechanism to bridge the gap between the students, professors and the administration. There are a lot of things which change after school when you come to college. For instance, the amount of things that you can get done in college by being a part of a council or something in the administration which links the students itself. So I would like to talk to all of you about that, since that gives you a good perspective as to how college life works for students and what teachers and professors generally expect out of students as well, and how you can have a smoother life in college as a student. So for instance, for me when I joined this college last year itself, there were a lot of things that I did not know as to how it works out. For instance, how hostels work out, how it is to live alone, how classes work out, how academic pressure builds up. School, you work on an assignment basis. In college, you have readings every day. You have papers to write. Plus, you have research centers to work in if you're really interested. So there are a lot of things which open up and just build up on you as such. There's this entire world which opens up to you when you join Jindal. For instance, for me as an IR student, I had the option of working with either research centers, invest my time over there, or continue with something which I was interested in, for instance, debating. Now, the act of juggling all these three was also something which becomes really tough as such. Because you can't exactly have that Midas touch like you do in school where you invest like 2 hours of your time in debating, 2 hours in football, 2 hours you study and things will be sorted out. Things don't exactly work that way in college. And hence, I thought of joining the council as such and talking about leadership to you because it's very important for us to understand what all things are really needed for a student to have his life sorted out in college over here. I would like Titha to bring her experiences as well.
Good afternoon. I'm Titha and I am from Kolkata. And the first challenge that I had in the shift from school to college was that I came far away from home. And coming all the way here, and I did not have anything to fall back on. Everything that I was doing was me on by myself for my future, and it's a little intimidating to think that everything that you do right now automatically affects your future. So you have a lot on your plate, but you also try to figure your way through it. I think what I figured out from being in journalism school was that it's not very different from real life. So my professors, they have all been journalists in real time, and so obviously when it comes to the field, they have a lot to offer. But other than that, they also have a lot to offer when it comes to how to manage yourself. And in school, you would go there for 6.5 hours. You'd meet your teachers, you'd do your things, curricular, co-curricular. But here in college, especially because it's a residential campus, I'm always here. So even if there's a class work that I have to do, I'm going back in the hostel, which is like 10 steps away, and I'm finishing it there. And there's a direct connection at all times, 24/7, with your professor, with all of your professors. So that was a little intimidating at first, to never get out of touch with what you're doing. Because in school you got that break. That break for 2 hours was good for you. Here that break is there and it isn't there. So what we do here is we try finding out activities to do which sort of acts as that break. And this college, I think one of the best things that I like about this college is that it looks for that balance in you. It emphasizes on you to have that balance in your own life, to manage between your academics and other things. And the autonomy that this college provides to an individual, the personal autonomy to do what you want, I think is very important for a student. That way, it doesn't look like it's a criteria or it's a requirement, it's just for you. So what I did in the first year was that I like acting, and it comes from my family. So there's a lot of societies on campus. There's performing arts, there's theater, there's debate society. I got into these societies. I started trying out my hand in plays and whatnot, and I would do that, and it would become difficult for me to manage time. And that's when I realized that the assignment schedule in college is very different. You're told from way before, you're given time, and most of all, you're given the independence to approach it in any way. It doesn't come from a textbook, it comes from wherever you want it to come from. So after a while, it started becoming a practice that came to me naturally, and that's when I thought, okay, what about something else? And I have always, in school also, I used to like being in front, and however that sounds, I wanted to take control. I have an obsession with planning, but then I wanted to take control of it on a bigger scale more than me. And I came here, and the first thing I saw was student councils here are very, very important. The administration takes you very seriously. We sit in conference rooms like this, and the administration heads, they sit here, and we're all there, and they're all listening to us. They take time out of their schedule to listen to us. And for a student to have that understanding that somebody of that importance who actually runs this institution is sitting and listening to you, I think that gives you a sense of authority which you cannot duplicate anywhere else. And hence I thought of running for the student council, and here I am. So I think now.
I would also like to talk to you about the new age problem which I feel a lot of students have these days in college, for instance. It's not as simple as it might seem from the outside. There are a lot of students who face a lot of problems, for instance, issues like mental health, issues which crop up in your young adulthood, which come up, are also important, and that's where you need some kind of guidance, either through your professors or counselors which you have in college, or through students whom you can reach out to. Because it's like entering an unknown place with 4,000 people and finding your way through a whole year or two which you're spending over here. So for instance, me being a part of the cultural secretary for the International Affairs School, we organize a lot of things like talking circles where people can just come and talk about their problems, or peer groups where people can come and help them out in whichever fashion they may feel like. If it's problem with their assignments, or if it's some social problem that they're facing, for instance, in campus, if it may be. Because the point is, you meet 4,000 different people in ways that you might not have encountered. You might meet someone at the football pitch while playing football, you meet someone else in the canteen, you meet someone else while you're debating with someone, or you meet someone else in class. So the kind of personalities you meet are vibrant and come from all over the country. and hence the impact that it can have on your mental health and your entire grooming itself is very important as well. And that's where we try and help most of the students out here, being a part of the councils as such. So we organize a lot of events which go on in this college. Since I'm a part of the cultural committee as such, I organize things like professor-student football matches, professor-student volleyball matches, things which get students more closer to professors in ways which are more than academic in nature, because the kind of work most students do with their professors over here is not only related to assignments. Once you start doing research, for instance, with a professor, you need to spend time with him every single day and work. And that needs a lot of coordination, for instance. So that's where we come in. Now, there are a lot of things that I would like to talk to you about. For instance, this college has taught me a lot about how much independence means as a student or as a young adult who ventures out from his home after school. I mean, the fact that you get that much of independence means that you have that much control over your life. So if you do mess up things, it's up to you. And if you do get things right, it's up to you. And that's a big learning which I feel every student does get out of Jindal if they do come here to study. I would like Teetha to share a few things which she feels some students get as well.
Yeah, so I think one thing that he spoke about is the way we interact with our professors is not just academic. So, for example, this semester, one course that we have is a course of radio. And essentially, we have a radio studio and we sit there and we record our own programs. And we, from the very beginning of when this assignment was given to us, assignment because it's graded, it was given to us and we were told that you can take it in whichever way you want. Whichever way, whichever direction, call whoever you want and speak to them or play music or do what you want. That led us to think that we can extract all of those things from our professors here. So I personally know a lot of classmates who just went out filming with their professors. What that enables is that you get a sense of the professor who's teaching you, and he or she also gets a sense of you that is more than just academic in nature. And when he was talking about mental health, that's one thing that also reminded me was that if I am having a problem here that's regarding mental health, I go to the professors, which was largely different for me, because in school you always have one or two favorite teachers who you can go to and talk to, but in college here it came off as if they were there for you. So in the beginning itself, we have this thing called a mentorship program. I think it's the same for every school, where your professor is not just your professor for an hour or a couple of hours in a day. He's your mentor, and your mentor in every sort of way, not just academic. So our professors are just an email away, and we go to them and we tell them this is what we're facing. And to have somebody speak from experience of an age which we don't have here because we are not with our parents, I think is very, very important. And that is being instilled in us on such a daily basis that I think it's also framing in my mind that later on, if there's somebody who comes to me to do the same, I have certain answers to give. I have certain things to say. And I don't think I had that in school. I don't think it's possible for anybody to sort of extract that from a situation that's different from college. And I think for a student to be here and to be completely by themselves, it takes a lot. And it's not for everybody, and everybody needs someone or the other, and that's why Jindal comes in, where we are given a voice.
I would also like to tell you about the kind of student autonomy and the kind of student power that we have in the decision-making process that goes on in Jindal, for instance. Now, the kind of student interaction with professors is quite large to an extent. For instance, there are mentorship programs where a professor is assigned to every single student, wherein he takes care of that student till the course goes on, or as semester-wise, when you're supposed to meet that professor once every 3 weeks, talk to him about things, talk to him about internships, about your work you're doing, or if any problems you're facing as such. Otherwise, for instance, we also have a disciplinary committee which exists of students and professors and the administration. So every single decision that is taken over there as well is taken on a consensus basis, and there's no any party which is as such left out from that decision-making process. And any single complaints that any of the students have were all taken into consideration through frequent surveys that are floated around in everyone's email boxes. Then they're taken up together where all the councils of different schools which exist, and that's how the hierarchy works. There are different student council for every single school that exists in this college. For instance, I represent the International Affairs Student Council. She represents the one from the journalism school. There's one for law school, there's one for business and finance, one for government and policy. Similarly, all these councils sit together ultimately and then take the decision with the administration and the professors. So the hierarchy takes care of everything and almost everything as such. For instance, in the International Affairs School, now under me being the cultural secretary, I take care of all the events and cultural things that go on in my International Affairs School, which has around 400 people as such. And the general secretary, who is another person allocated to the student council, which includes 4 people: cultural secretary, general secretary, and the president and the vice president. The general secretary, for instance, takes care of academic matters. So we formed an academic committee, which is called the APCI, which sits with professors, takes recommendations from students as to what changes they want the courses to be made. For instance, some children in my course wanted courses that would increase their quantitative skills as such, although IR is very theoretical in nature, and hence we introduced a course on quantitative skills which included statistics as such. Because students spoke to professors, professors spoke to students, we realized that the job market as such, which is growing, we need more quantitative skills, although think tanks are also progressing towards other areas. Similarly, all the decisions that we take are on a joint basis, wherein the administration, professors, or the students are not left out.
Just one other thing that I would like to say is we as students extract a lot from our professors, but there's this one mechanism put in place in this university where we students are asked for feedback to our professors. So essentially what we are asked to do is at the end of a semester, whoever taught us a certain course, we're asked to fill up a feedback form for our course instructors, where around 7 to 8 questions are asked regarding how they taught and what in-depth analysis they helped us do, what experiences they came from. And that enables us to also sort of provide a feedback for the course instructors that later the administration goes through, and then they can make a decision over the professors. And what that does is if there's certain academic problem that a student is facing and they don't really have a way out to go to somebody and directly say that, okay, I am facing a problem, they wait for this at the end of the semester where they can sort of put all their problems in a feedback form and send it, which will later be analyzed by the administration. That also, I think, is something very important that I really could find the benefit of, because certain courses, I personally felt certain courses in my course was that I couldn't keep up with them. For example, filming, I don't have an idea of filming, and not that I cannot go into it, but I would like to have a more theoretical extraction of it. So I could put that in a feedback form and I could send it off, and then either the professor would come and talk to me, or maybe the vice chancellor or the registrar would come and speak to me. And I think that was also another thing that's very important.
I would like to conclude by opening the floor for any questions that you might have for the life of students that goes on in general, since we've been here for a year and a half and we've been in close touch with all the students who are here. Also, one of the things that I'd like to highlight, like at least for me personally, one of the best parts about this college has been how interdisciplinary it is. I mean, over here you just don't grow academically or like through one perspective. It's not just a law student becoming a lawyer. It's a law student becoming whatever he wants and extracting whatever he wants from the School of Architecture, Journalism, International Affairs, Banking and Finance, or whatever it might be. He can either audit a course, meet that professor, and the professors are so skilled, for instance, they're pretty welcoming. For instance, I had a professor who taught me diplomacy in my first semester and who had just retired from the IFS and was the ambassador to France till last year itself. So imagine being taught such practical skills from a professor at that level, even though if you're not an IR student, you're just auditing a class. The knowledge you get over there is just unmatchable, for instance. I would like to open the floor for any questions if you might have. Thank you so much.
I think let us have a round of applause to both the
What did you It's
Yeah.
been wonderful after coming here.
Yeah.
What made you choose this over other
Good.
colleges, other courses? Why this course? Why this university?
Correct. I was actually planning on becoming a law student earlier in my high school since I thought I have a skill set which would make a good lawyer. I thought I could speak well. I'm into debating. I like reading as such. I like arguing on different things, being an Indian. So I thought, why not? Law is a good option. The economy might open up later on. So, but then I realized I can't really study one subject for 5 years, and I really like this idea of interdisciplinary learning. So although I'm doing international affairs right now, I'm not sure I'll become an IR theorist. And the best part over here is that I've been auditing courses in the journalism school, I've been auditing courses with the law school professors, I've been mingling with a crowd which includes people from all these schools with different perspectives, and I felt I won't get such an opportunity anywhere else, although there are colleges which offer political science. There are very few colleges which offer international affairs, for instance. I came from Calcutta, and we had one college over there which was offering me international affairs, which was called Jadavpur University. Then I realized that I need to get out of my house because I really need to learn not staying under the same roof as my parents, which would teach me more, I felt. And it did, to be honest. So I came here, for instance, and it's been great since a year and a half. Thank you.
For me, it was completely different. I, in fact, wanted to pursue journalism from the very beginning, and that's because I thought I have, I like writing, and I think I try and do my best there. And so I started searching for journalism schools, and there aren't very many of journalism schools either. There was Symbiosis, and there were a couple other schools which would focus on PR and communications a lot more. Journalism focus I didn't find anywhere else, which was catering to exactly what I wanted. And then I decided to come for a campus visit where I got to meet my professors. And that's when I realized that my professors, they all come from the Indian Express, NDTV. One of them comes from India Today. They are all journalists. And that's when I realized that if I want to be a journalist, what better than actually speak to journalists on a daily basis? They would have the best idea of what I am trying to pursue. And more than that, if you're trying to be a journalist, to be real in a practical world, you need journalists to become a journalist. So if not anything, like I have done internships at news organizations, and I got them through my professors because they had colleagues who would set me up to for the internships, and I would go there. And that's when I realized that I think it's the professors here who are my best shot, which is why I came here.
Nice. Good knowing from you both. It's excellent. What are your expectations from schools as you were talking? There certain things are there when you come to college,
Yeah.
and they were not there in the schools.
Yeah.
We have so many things in schools also.
Yeah, I
More
accept.
protected in
My
schools than
schooling
we-
experience was wonderful, to be honest. I loved every bit of it. I actually was brought up in a lot of different schools since my father was in the army, so I kept on shifting to places. But I felt like schooling, to a large extent, at least in India nowadays, restricts learning when it comes to taking in a lot of pressure and being interdisciplinary in nature. For instance, children nowadays are forced, for instance, the influence as such, the environment becomes wherein they're conduced to taking up a stream which they might not necessarily want, and in which they later on realize that they don't want it, and then it becomes too late. Now, not everyone can afford to do that, because all of us come from really different backgrounds. So, there are a lot of students who suffer at that moment, and it's because of the whole institution as such, and not because of a specific school or a teacher, I feel. That was my problem.
That is, I think the parents are forced to do it, not the schools are doing it.
I feel it's the whole institution that has been encouraged.
System.
Yeah, the whole system.
That's
I really feel so. I feel it's an institution problem rather than putting the blame
Or
on.
we are compelled with
Yeah.
the system,
With the
and
system.
teachers have to complete this curriculum,
Yes.
syllabus,
I-
and
So, but I also want to say, at the age of
ultimately your marks, your ranking,
Exactly.
that matters. The person who is
Yes.
having 91.2
Exactly.
is more intelligent than who is having 91.
I mean, I understand, like, in a country like ours where we have 1.7 billion people, a company won't have a lot of ways to filter 10,000 applicants. I mean, you can't interview 10,000 people and judge their personalities or how smart they are on a street level. you have to judge their IQs on the basis of their exam taking skills. So I agree with you on that, but I feel institutionally, students suffer quite a lot in this country as well because of the schooling system.
Today one difference is there, universities are free to frame their own curriculum. Schools
I
are
understand.
not. Schools
I
are not.
understand.
Schools are not.
But I also want to say, so like I am fresh out of college. I have my convocation today. which I
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
So, but I believe I was a science student and I never wanted to do science. My father forced me to do science. So yeah, I was in science 2 years. I was crying all my life, 11, 12. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. But I don't understand, like, yes, of course, schools, should have that. But at the age of 16, you cannot tell a child to decide the career for his or her whole life. And it is actually very difficult when it comes to choosing universities because of the streams that you have chosen. So me being from a science background, no aptitude, no IQ for it, I obviously scored low. I then had to go for a private university, being from, so friends, parents kept telling me, nahi, DU jana hai, but DU to nahi ho sakta tha because science plus low marks. So I had to go to a private university. I never regretted one day of it. But in the end, it was because I was forced to take a decision where I did not know what to do. I was switching between psychology and Air Force, and I don't know what to do. So at that age, it's very difficult to choose what career.
Then
you
parents
have
have to come and
Yes.
What you did now?
I am a counselor now.
Psychology.
No. I did not do it from Jindal. I did it from Amity, Noida.
Okay.
Yes.
That's funny, you reached to the subject of your choice.
Yes, I did, but then it was difficult because it was a struggle. 11, 12
It has
was
to
a
be a
struggle for me.
struggle.
So then I would never like science like I used to like it before.
There is no doubt actually, there were days when we were not having the aptitude test or awareness, you can say.
Yes.
I always used to quote the example when I talk to my students as a principal, Mr. Harsha Bogle. What is he doing? He is a commentator from TV, but he is, I think, pass out of IIM Ahmedabad. Dr. Narottam Puri.
There are many such
Dr. Narottam
examples.
Puri is a very renowned ENT surgeon.
So but
Successful.
why do you quote people who are famous for
Getting,
it?
what I
There are
was going to
failures
say,
also, yes.
getting success into a profession is an entirely different thing, but job satisfaction is another thing. You can be a successful person in any profession, but you will not get satisfaction, job satisfaction if you are not having a career or profession of your choice.
But how can a
Let's get
50
back to the children.
Yes.
I have
I
a
think
question.
the-
What percentage attendance are you supposed to keep?
It's 75%.
And with all this, you can match that.
Sorry?
With all these activities, interdisciplinary courses, you can complete 75%. Or
so-
wherever you go, that is given to you.
For instance, if you're representing the college, you get an on duty which you can use for your attendance because you're representing the college. But it's totally up to your discretion as to how you value that as well. Whether
I had a question.
Yeah.
You said somewhere that if you don't take care of your independence,
yeah,
you can get messed up,
yeah.
right? I understand that much.
Exactly.
I also want to understand, so what stops from getting messed up? How are the systems here that don't allow you to get messed up? Because 75% attendance is a lot of leverage given.
Yeah, I
Right?
understand.
So, and the possibility of getting messed up is another thing you
Yeah.
spoke about. So, what are the systems that prevent that messing up of some children who don't know how to manage independence?
The core to that itself, I feel, for how it affected me, I'll tell you personally. When I got out of school and home, I was realized I can do whatever I want. My parents are not telling me, you need to study now, go take a shower, go brush after that and then sleep. Like over here, I can do whatever I want. But over here, I know if I do not study before sleeping, tomorrow's assignment, I will get an F. So over here, I know that I have to study and no one on earth is going to tell me to study and that F will be there tomorrow morning on my paper. So the fact that the independence is motivating me enough and incentivizing me to work itself is what I spoke about. So Jindal makes you really confident that way, I feel.
Deadlines.
And
I mean, it gives you deadlines, you meet so many people, you see an environment which is conducive enough for studying,
It's great.
it's obvious if you see 25 people out of a class of 30 studying, you'll end up studying if you're one of the 5, trust me. The probability of at least 2 to start studying once they see 25 people studying is there. I don't know about the rest 3, but 2 will start studying for sure.
And for the attendance, I feel if we know we have been given the information that after 75%, if you miss out, you're debarred. And by debarred, you cannot sit for an examination. That way, you have to wait to give that paper again 2 semesters later. And that is a lot to have on your plate. So you would much rather just attend those classes than have to wait for 2 semesters and give that paper. So I think it's just mechanisms.
Good. Great.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Very nice.